Hello, Amin, and hello, everybody. Our topic today is following on what you've already heard so much about, the future of global energy, and no one better to discuss global energy than the CEO of the world's largest oil company, Amin Nasser. So welcome, Amin.
Thank you, Dan, for moderating.
Going to look like when?
Good morning for Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen.
I think did you say his mic is not on? Could everybody hear?
Can't hear, but it still makes sense.
I think they're coming with a new mic. Yes. Give it a test. It's
Okay.
Welcome,
Thank you, Dan, for
Amin.
moderating the session. I really appreciate it. And good morning, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen.
So, Amin, there's been so much turbulence in the oil market, realignment of oil flows going on. Just share with the audience your assessment of the state of the oil market.
Well, you know, as we came out of COVID, there was a pickup in demand, and we've seen that, and impacted supply with the increase in demand. And of course, the Russian-Ukraine crisis made the situation even worse in terms of what happened. However, a combination of factors, rising interest rates, central banks rising these interest rates, and inflation impact, and all of these things made a very pessimistic view of the market. And we are where we are today. However, with regard to your question about the realignment or the crudes and where it's going, it's basically, I always say, oil is fungible commodity. Russians, with the right discounts, they are able to place their crudes in different markets, and crude from that are supplying Asia for the time being are redirected, some of it to Europe and North America and other parts of the world. So it's realignment is happening. There's a good discount rates being offered, and logistics are being handled. Depending on what happened on December 5 with the total embargo of the European that they will implement on crude, and in February of next year what they will do on products. There is a lot of uncertainties that is shaping the market views currently.
And I guess the markets are already adjusting, the flows are shifting.
It is adjusted, as I said. Oil is a fungible commodity. With the right discounts being offered by the Russians now, they are able to place their crude in different. There is a logistical issues, I have to say, insurance issues, but this is being handled with the right discounts, and the flow is going to Asia. It takes longer time for Russian crude to go to Asia, and crude from different parts of the world that used to be going to Asia is now redirected to Europe and other parts of the world.
Right. So going from the short-term market to the long-term, no phrase is used more around the world in energy circles than energy transition. Saudi Aramco, what are you doing in terms of net zero? What are you doing in terms of new technology?
Well, we issued our sustainability report this year. In that sustainability report, we indicated that our upstream carbon intensity will be reduced by 15% by 2035 compared to 2018 baseline. Also in that report, we indicated that we'll be reducing 52 million ton by 2035 by our investment in efficiency, in carbon, nature-based solutions, in carbon capture and sequestration, a lot of projects. At the same time, we are working on circular carbon economy and engine efficiency, a lot of technologies that will help us to reduce our carbon emissions going forward. We are also investing a lot in renewable and also in low carbon energy like blue hydrogen. That's going to be a huge investment for the company. At the same time, I do have also an exciting news about the company.
Yeah, I think you do have something important to add here, so maybe we might stop and you might share the news with this audience.
Yeah, as I said, we have exciting news today. Saudi Aramco Venture Capital will announce or launch a $1.5 billion for sustainability fund. This is going to be amongst the biggest funds in the world for sustainability.
Maybe the biggest.
billion.
Maybe the biggest.
Yeah. And the fund will be directed to breakthrough technologies that are important and startups that will help us to address climate change.
And you'll be looking, this will be a fund that will be active around the world.
That fund will be active around the world. This is in addition to other funds. We do have a fund for $500 million, another fund for $1 billion, and we have a local fund for $200 million, in addition to what we have as a fund with our partner in Oil and Gas Climate Initiative. So there is a number of funds, but this is a dedicated fund for sustainability and breakthrough technologies for globally that will be done by Aramco.
So since today is the launch, everybody should join you, and congratulations on launching this, so please.
Thank you. Thank you.
And when does it open its doors? When does it start?
Well, it will be announced today and should be starting from today.
Okay, so watch on, when you leave here, people may rush up to you with business cards, so be prepared for that. Can we go back to hydrogen for a second? Because of course, I know you've talked about the focus on hydrogen, but the question of, is there a market for hydrogen? And do you see the market for hydrogen developing so far?
It is building up, but everybody talks about hydrogen, but in reality, hydrogen in barrel of oil equivalent is going to be talking about $250 to $300 per barrel of oil equivalent. So we're talking about blue hydrogen, and so far the market that is identified is mainly in Japan and South Korea, but it's still picking up in Europe and other parts of the world, but it is going to take time for the market to pick up because everybody is looking at technology and the cost going down. But for companies like Aramco, we need an offtake agreement for these projects because these are costly projects, and without an offtake agreement, you cannot grow that market big time.
So not everyone here is in the energy business, so do you want to explain what blue hydrogen is and how this market would work if Saudi Arabia is here and Japan and Korea are the market there?
Basically, we are taking the carbon out of our crude and sequestering it underground, and then mixing it either with ammonia and then transporting it to different markets to be used in power plants, because it will be difficult to transport it as hydrogen. That's why we call it blue hydrogen or blue ammonia.
Right, and the first markets will probably be Asia?
Most likely Japan and South Korea, because the interest is there and the market is developed, but it is picking up. It's going to take time before it matures to a much bigger volume.
So, Amin, you gave a very important speech. I think it was, we're still in October, so it was last month in Switzerland, where you talked about the need for a new consensus in energy. What did you mean by a new consensus?
Well, the current transition plan is flawed. Honestly, it's not really delivering. What we need is an optimal, realistic transition plan. We see today, if you look at coal today, it's 8 billion tons. This is the highest since 2013, 8 billion tons. The cost of coal per barrel of oil equivalent is $60 to $80 per barrel of oil equivalent. So basically, we are transitioning to coal. It used to be $20.
Do you hear that? Not the intention, but $60 to $80 per barrel coal.
Of coal. It used to be $20. So what we need to do is we need to first work on renewables and alternatives and hydrogen and all of that, but we need to work in parallel, and we need to also realize that today alternatives are not ready to shoulder a heavy load of the growing energy demand, and therefore we need to work in parallel until alternatives are ready to shoulder a bigger piece of the growing energy demand in the future. When we are ready, we can ditch plan A, which is conventional resources, but without doing that, what we are doing, actually, we are forcing other countries to go to coal because affordability, availability, and energy security are important. And that's where the transition plan is not working. The other thing is, since we agree that both should go in parallel. We need to decarbonize existing resources. So technologies like carbon capture and sequestration, how do we improve that technology? Support should come from governments and from policymakers to support these type of technologies, because we need to decarbonize existing resources in parallel to what we are doing in terms of support for alternatives. Third, we need to realize different countries in terms of speed of decarbonizing will go at multi-speed, let me put it that way, depending on the economic maturity of different countries. One size fits all doesn't work. The problem, we are looking at it from as if we are living in a bubble. I mean, we're looking at it from a Western point of view, and the rest of the world needs to adapt. No, it's not going to work like that. That's why everybody is moving to coal on the other part of the world, where there is the demand and the growing in demand. So what we need to do to understand the economic maturity of developing countries and the speed of the transition that they will be going through. The fourth important consensus is that we need to work with the energy companies. They do have the will to decarbonize and also introduce new energy sources like renewables and hydrogen. They do have the expertise. They do have the capacity. They do have the experience in doing giga projects, and they have been doing giga projects for a long time. They are part of the solutions to stop the dialogue like what happened in COP26 and what's happening in COP27 and others is not going to help anybody. We are part of the solutions to meet our common goal of addressing the climate change challenges.
Right. So let me ask you one last question in the time we have. By the way, your point about the division between North and South on energy transition is a really important one, and I think maybe at COP27 that will become clearer than it was at COP26. But one last question, which is, you've talked also about supply risks that the world has not seen, and I think that is what you have in mind there is investment.
We are seeing that, you know, if you think about it, look at 2014, we spent in upstream about $700 billion in capital. And then people come and say, compare that to what's happening in 2022. They're talking about $300 to $400 billion. It's not the same dollars, it's different dollars. Yeah. It's inflation is impacting. So these dollars are worth like 250 because you see the commodity prices. So we are not really investing enough. There is, today, if you think about it, there is a lockdown in China, there is a looming recession, and there is, the aviation industry is still today 30% below pre-COVID level. Yeah. If you add all of these things and you look at the level of investment that we are doing today, it's not sufficient to meet the expectation in the mid and long term.
Right. Amin, our topic is the future of global energy, and on behalf of everybody, thank you for giving us this very sharp vision on the future of global energy.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay.